All right, now we are recording. So, so I don't know, Megan or Francisco, who's going to share their screen first.
Yeah, Megan's going to start sharing her screen, and then when we get to the map, we'll go to me.
Are we doing the introduction, Sam,
Yeah.
as we normally have?
Exactly. So,
all right, fine.
When you're ready, Megan, you can share your screen and we'll get started. All right. Well, good evening. Happy New Year, everyone. Good to see everyone. As you probably remember, my name is Sam Gold. I'm the Executive Director of RiverCOG, the Lower Connecticut River Valley Council of Governments. I'm joined today by numerous members of our Regional Planning Commission, our RiverCOG staff, including Megan Juflis, who is a RiverCOG project manager, our consultant, Francisco Gomes from the Sheldon Holiday, and we also have a number of members of the public here. So thank you very much for being here, and thank you for everyone who has attended this in a series of what have been 4 workshops. If you've missed the previous 3, those recordings are on our project website, which is RiverCOG Regional Planning. And so if there's anything that we referred to that you might have missed because you weren't in attendance at a previous meeting, you can watch the recording and see what we were talking about. So with that, I'll turn it over to the Regional Planning Committee's chair, Frank D. Felice, Frank C. Felice. I saw your middle name, so I'll turn it over to Frank and for some introduction and words of welcome.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Sam. As Sam mentioned, my name is Frank D. Felice, and for the past 5 years, I've had the pleasure of serving as the chairperson of the Regional Planning Committee, also known as the RPC. Perhaps the most important responsibility of the RPC is the creation of the Plan of Conservation and Development for our 17-town region. And on behalf of the more than 24 RPC members that represent each of your communities, many of who are in attendance tonight, I want to express our thanks to you for participating in this second part of a 2-part workshop dedicated to mapping for our Regional Plan of Conservation and Development. During our first presentation on mapping, I discussed why mapping was important to the Plan of Conservation and Development. But for this second part, I'll review the process that will be used to ensure that our maps, and indeed the entire plan itself, will be accurate, balanced, and represent the best interests of our 17 shared communities. First, the comments that are received following tonight's meeting will be reviewed by the RPC members for the municipality associated with the comment. This is a regional project, and so it's possible that someone from Portland could say, you know, I think this would be an improvement in Durham or any other town. And because of that, the RPC members for that town that have been appointed by their municipalities to represent their interests will serve as the first reviewer. At that first step of review, the RPC members will assure that the comments received are in keeping with their town's preference. Next, following this initial review, the draft maps and a draft plan will be developed and circulated for public comment. The public comment period is required by statute, and the comments submitted during this review period will again be reviewed by the RPC, this time as a whole. And if it's appropriate, changes will be made. The third approval process involves the chief elected officials of all 17 municipalities rather. They can choose to approve the proposed plan, or they can return it to the RPC along with suggested revisions. This 3-tiered review and approval process assures that the maps, as well as the plan, will be in keeping with the desires of our region's communities. Now, following tonight's workshop, the Regional Planning Committee is hopeful that you will continue to participate in the development of this regional plan, sharing your thoughts, your concerns, communicating issues that are important to you, critiquing our work, and identifying those goals that will help define and improve our region during the next 10 years and beyond. And with that, I'd like to turn the presentation back to Sam and Megan, and thank you for your participation tonight.
Thank you, Frank, for that welcome and overview. At this point, let's start with the agenda. I'm going to hand it over to Megan Juflis, RiverCOG Senior Planner, and she will give you an overview of the agenda and kick off the presentation. So thank you, Megan.
Sam, thanks, Frank. So I'm going to recap a little bit of what's already been said here. Today, we're here for our final regional thematic workshop, the Future Land Use Planning and Mapping Exercise, Part B. This is a continuation of our last workshop, which was held on December 21st, 2020. First, I'd like to apologize for the last minute rescheduling and thank you for your patience and your perseverance with us as we work through this process. We want to make sure that we had a really great exercise for you guys, and we think we do. So that said, because we have a lot of material that we need to cover tonight and we want to be cognizant of everyone's time, we're going to skip the recap that we usually begin with. And as Sam mentioned at the beginning, if you're joining us for the first time or you missed the last meeting, don't worry, you can still participate and follow along, but we encourage you to visit the website, rivercogregionalplan.org, after we adjourn and get caught up. So tonight, what we're going to do is we'll start with an explanation of the activity that we'll be asking you to do, and then we'll recap the areas that we'll be asking you to identify that we brought up at the last meeting. And then I'll turn it over to Francisco, who's going to bring up the mapping tool and walk you through the data we've included and how to use the different functions to make your identifications. So in tonight's activity, you may recall this from the last meeting, we'll show you a web-based map of the region with a series of inputs that Francisco will explain in further detail. And we'll then ask you to draw on the map where you would like to see town centers, innovation development areas, utility expansion areas, housing opportunity areas, connections, and other areas that you may find important for our consideration. You'll have 2 weeks to use the tool for this purpose. So I'd also like to take a moment to put this exercise into context. The exercise is open to the public, so anyone can participate. And the purpose is to serve as a bit of a temperature check on public opinion. So I know we have a lot of people joining us tonight that do have a planning background, and that's great. And please bring that with you to the exercise. But it's not a prerequisite for participation. So we're just trying to get a sense of what the region's residents are thinking. And that said, it's important to also address how the information is going to be used. So the public perspective that we collect as part of this exercise is going to be taken into account along with other important inputs, such as the data contained in the existing conditions report, RPC review and comment and input, state, local, and other regional plans, and other data that we've collected along the way. So just because a suggestion comes in doesn't necessarily mean you'll see it reflected in the plan, particularly if it doesn't make sense with all of the other inputs. On the other hand, if the same suggestion comes up repeatedly, then that's something that we're going to give a greater amount of weight to when we're looking at everything. So the important thing to remember is that this exercise is one important input in several. So once the 2-week time frame ends, we'll review the responses that we get, and we may post a compilation of suggestions on the project website for informational purposes, but all suggestions will be anonymous. So now this part should look familiar for those of you who were with us at the last meeting. And hopefully you've been giving this some thought while you were enjoying your holidays. As part of the mapping exercise, we'll be asking you to identify what we are calling town centers. This may be a bit of a misnomer because there can be more than one or none in a town, and they don't necessarily have to be in the center. But what we're looking for are areas where you'd like to see an integration of residential, commercial, employment, and civic uses. And these are areas that will be pedestrian friendly, hubs, inviting spaces with accessible streets, and that emphasize community character. Next, we'll also be looking for innovation development areas. And these are areas where you would like to see industrial, commercial services, or commercial retail uses, or some mixture of these. The focus here is on areas for employment or business generating uses that will tie our built environment to the region's economic development. Also ask you to identify housing opportunity areas. We heard from you at our last several workshops that the region needs more affordable housing. We also heard that we have a lot of attainable housing that A, doesn't qualify as statutorily affordable, or B, might not be the right fit for a diversity of residents, such as single person households, younger residents, older residents, or non-family households. So this category is meant to encapsulate all of those things. We're looking for areas to target a mixture of housing types that are suitable for houses of various sizes and income levels. This could be apartments, condos, townhomes, duplexes, or even just single family homes on larger lots or smaller lots. By planning for a diversity of housing types, we can create economically and socially diverse communities. There'll also be an opportunity for you to identify areas for utility expansion. These may be areas for extended sewer, public water, gas, internet, cellular, or fiber optics. And of course, this may overlap with other areas that you identify. For example, if you're identifying innovation, development, or housing opportunities in areas that don't already have these utilities, then you are, in a sense, already recommending utility expansion, but we are including this as a standalone option for your consideration as well. We'll also ask you to identify connections. So these are key links between important land use destinations. We heard at all of our previous meetings and workshops that you feel our region needs better connectivity. So here you can identify locations for sidewalks, bike paths, transit connections, etc., to help us better connect everything our region has to offer. A focus on variety of mode choice for these connections can also help to meet the needs of a diverse group of users. And finally, we have an other category. So this can be your opportunity to call out any other ideas or areas that you think would be important for us to focus on. And with that, I will turn it over to Francisco to pull up the mapping tool and give us a little tutorial.
Okay, thank you, Megan. And if I can find the correct window, we'll be in good shape. All right, and let me know when you could see the map.
I can see it.
Okay. All right, great. So as a brief introduction, when you go to the website through the URL that we provide, you will come to this page and you will see an intro window, and this reinforces and repeats what Megan just walked us through and described. We do ask that you enter your zip code and email. It's not mandatory to continue to the mapping function, but it's helpful for us to know who's participating and from where. So that's pretty easy to do. Once you do that, you can continue to the map. We also have a brief tutorial that more or less will walk you through some of the steps that I'm about to show you now. But I'll go ahead and continue to the map. And can everyone see the map now and the start here at the bottom of the screen?
Yep.
Good, good. All right, and so you'll start by following the directions, which are start here. And you can click on that plus sign, and that brings you to some options on how you can document your thoughts on the map. I should note that this is a standard Google map. You can switch views between this road map base and a satellite or aerial image. And you can also zoom in and zoom out. And here we'll zoom in a little bit. All right, we have three choices for how you can document your thoughts and ideas. The simplest one is a comment pin, and that is putting a pin at a very precise location on the map. And so we'll do that now. And these little tips, you can just say, got it, you understand. And your hand now, your cursor now, you can, just like before, you can move the screen and you can continue to zoom in and zoom out. But if you were to click with the left click button once, it will place a pin there. And then you should get a pop-up window on the left side of the screen. And can everyone see that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, it says new pin. And this is the most important part, because this is where you associate your ideas and thoughts by entering a comment that's associated with a place on the map. So here you can write whatever thoughts you have. If by example, I picked a spot along a fork in the Connecticut River at the Connecticut and Salmon River. If this were an area of particular environmental concern for some reason, you would note what that is. Or you can also use the pin in a more general way. Let's say we have something that's not an idea or a thought or concern you have that's not fixed to a particular geographic area, but maybe region-wide or along the river or whatever it may be. You just drop a pin in and add a comment and say this applies to the whole region. And we'll receive that, we'll know what to do with it. Okay. So there's the pin comment. And I'll go through each of these and then we'll take a little break before I show you the rest of the map features for any questions you have regarding how you add a pin or a line or a shape onto the map and provide comment.
Francisco?
Yes.
A question on the comments. I guess typically like 25 to 50 words, or you can do full page.
I believe, I have not tested this yet, but I believe it does allow you to keep writing. And let me check that right now. I've never tried to enter more than a paragraph, but yeah, you can keep going.
Okay.
All right, so you have more than that little window. It should not. If so, here's a thought. If you had idea that you had composed elsewhere, like in a document, a Word file, an email, you could copy and paste that into the comment window.
Great.
Okay.
Yes.
Or you could copy and paste a link to that document as well.
Or a link to it. You know, that being said, brevity is appreciated. It's like getting to the point, because you know, we have a lot of information that we need to filter through. It's so if you could quickly get to the essence of the issue or the idea, it would be helpful. But we don't want to limit you to a tiny little box at the same time.
One other point I would add is that the purpose of this is not to be parcel specific. In fact, it's to not be parcel specific. So when we're looking at this, we're dropping pins and so forth. We just want to make sure that everybody understands that we're not selecting a particular parcel and say this should be X or Y. It's we can't really do that. It's not kosher.
Frank makes a very good point. There's probably 500,000 parcels in the region, right? So we can't be working parcel by parcel here. We need to be thinking about areas of the region and really in the big picture for how the region should move forward over the next 10+ years. So we should really be mindful about those themes that Megan walked us through, whether it be innovation or housing, and the areas in the region where that should be a focus or connections that should be made. And when we say connections made, it's not, we're not talking about 100 feet of sidewalk where there's a gap in a town center, right? We're talking about connecting across a community, one community to another, a community center to an important conservation area, et cetera.
And an example of a useful comment here for this pin is, you know, would like to see the preservation of the Salmon River. You
Sure.
would read that as opposed to I want so and so to sell their land to the land trust. Yeah, because that's not this scale of the plan, and really we're looking for the larger area concerns.
Thank you, Sam. All right. In addition to the pin, you can add lines or paths. And this is really useful when we're talking about connections. And so I'll start it out. It starts out looking like a pin, but as you drag to another, go to another location, and let's say we wanted more improved cross-river connections for whatever it may be. The way we do that is then click to another location, and there it is. And then you could type in your comment, improved cross-river connections for whatever in this area. All right, and that line can also be points. You could, let me close this out here. Oh, I need to cancel. There, right? You can, it can be a long line with a lot of different vertices. Once you enter a comment and submit it, it'll record it. And then you can add another line or another feature, or another pin or another path. You're not limited in how many features you could add to the map. And the third class is shape. And here we give you some options on how you could add a shape, and that's for really defining an area. So if you had an area that you had ideas that were really specific to an area, and I'll zoom out a little bit here. You know, maybe it's that this part of the river is unique in some way, or should have has a different vision for this part of the area that's maybe unique for the region. You could draw a shape, and you can edit this by dragging the vertices around if you don't get it quite right the first time. And then you could provide your comment. We do allow you, if you want to get fancy with it, we allow you to change the color if you would like to distinguish some of your ideas from one another. And the border color as well. And the width of the border to emphasize things, and the transparency. So you could really get very creative with this. But once again, the most valuable piece of information here will be your comments associated with this. Okay, and the other features are a little simpler in shapes. We try to make it easy for you, just a rectangle or a square, and the same options with the comment feature, and then finally a circle. And the circle, you know, you can make any size you like, and you can once again change the color of that as well. But the comment, logging your comment and then submitting it is the most important part, because that's how it gets recorded. If you cancel out and you don't submit, then that information will be lost. All right, now because this base map is somewhat limited in the information it provides, you know, it does provide roads and rivers and locations, but it doesn't have some of the planning information that may be useful. We have added, and are actually still in the process of adding, some additional information to the map to help you orient yourself and to figure out, you know, which areas are served by what. And by example, we have conservation areas, and on the map, and this comes from a previous study that was done about strategic conservation areas for the Connecticut River and coastal area. And so we brought that mapping into this, and these were the areas that were identified as being strategic for conservation. So we hope that'll be a helpful resource to you. We have flood zones, and this is FEMA-based flooding, and it includes both the flood hazard zone, which is the area that normally floods as part of the river's a river's course or a lake. And in addition to that, we have the 100-year floodplain represented here. We did not include the 500 year floodplain because it's more extensive in area, and there's also less restrictions surrounding the 500-year floodplain. We wanted to limit it to the areas that were most restrictive.
Sesko, are these the FEMA floodplains, or are these the ones that Dewberry developed?
This is the FEMA floodplain mapping.
All right.
Yeah, and the FEMA 100-year flood zones, and they're denoted by various letter symbols. But we've condensed all that for you, the flood zone and the 100-year floodplain, into this one mapping layer.
Thank you.
In addition to that, we have major utility transmission lines. And this data set is very limited. There's not much that's publicly available. The utility companies kind of protect this information carefully. RiverCOG and Margo specifically was able to extract utility lines from data that's available from the state land use coverage data. So what this map shows are major transmission line corridors. Obviously, we have utility service throughout the entire region, but these are where the big transmission lines are. So let's say you're an industry and you're looking to site or locate. Chances are, if you're a heavy electric user, you're going to want to be close to a transmission line to have the adequate access to energy. So we hope this will be somewhat helpful to you. And I should note, where if there are any gaps in the coverage, it's not that the line does not continue through that area. It's just that the mapping we have is based on land use, and where there's a more dominant land use, say in a town center, the land use mapping for utility corridors does not continue through, even though those transmission lines do continue through. But I think this gives you a sense as to where your major transmission lines are in the region.
Francesco, we also have the location of gas and petroleum lines. It's not probably not shown on this map, but we have that ability if it's not on there already.
Right. And continuing with utilities, we've provided sewer service areas for you, and of course it's concentrated mostly in Middletown, Portland, East Hampton, with smaller service areas in other communities, as well as water service areas. And we are still working to update this map. We have some additional data for towns to the south, and I expect to have that up by tomorrow morning. Additionally, we provide historic and village districts, and we just received very recently some mapping for a historic district in Westbrook, and we're in the process of trying to pull together Middletown's districts. We didn't have any GIS data for it, but we were able to find Middletown has a number of national register districts. They don't have local districts, but national registered districts, 5 or 6 of them. And we're in the process of, we need to remap those from the National Park Service inventory. But we'll get those on this map as well, I anticipate by the end of tomorrow. In addition to that, we locate the Shoreline East stations for you if you have thoughts and ideas relative to transit locations. And we provide a greenway layer that shows Connecticut Deep's inventory of greenways, including Blue Blaze trails and various other greenways such as the Earline Trail. And these greenway layers, the state does not provide this in a GIS format. We had to reproduce this from a PDF map that they provide. So this is this is not precise in its location. So if you really try to zoom in, this map will probably fall apart for you. But it gives you an overall sense as to where the state designated or greenways are across the region. And then finally, we have a zoning layer that this standardizes the zoning districts across all the communities. Every community has unique zoning district classifications, of course. And we standardize that for more or less trying to get an apples to apples comparison across the region. And this is the same mapping we used in the existing conditions draft. And I think it very quickly gives you a sense as to where the more intense zoning areas are, zoning districts, and obviously those are associated primarily along the shore and in Middletown, with some other pockets in town centers. Otherwise, as you can see, much of your region is low density residential, which is this very faint purple color here. Okay, are there any questions on any of that?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Beth Emery has had her hand raised. So why don't we go Beth first and then Maurice.
So I have two questions. One is, when we're trying to identify what we're going to write, let's take in Middletown, the floating meadows. If I go there and it has identified the floating meadows, then it's good. It's going to be included. But if I don't see that there, I should definitely highlight that and write a comment about it being an ecologically sensitive area.
My recommendation would be for you to highlight it as ecologically significant area in your comments. But that is, that is something which with the Cockaponset and Middletown and Cromwell, we know about the floating meadows. We know they're important. We know that there's issues with invasive species, but I think a comment, whether you draw a box or just do a pin and say the floating meadows are important, and if you want whatever, how much a concise explanation of what your concerns are, I think that's what I would recommend that you do.
Now we might open that up and find out that it's already highlighted. So I guess it may well be there, and I'm trying not to be redundant. So I use that as a very specific example, so that I better understand what to communicate.
So Beth, you should probably highlight it and make a comment anyway, because the map is not purely additive, which is, it's not an accumulation of more and more and more and more of what's here. There may be things on the map that are wrong, and those comments may end up taking something out. So it's important that you do make a comment if it's important to you.
So let me step in here very quickly. I want to remind everyone of a very, very important idea about what we're trying to do here. What we don't want to do is go through the information that we're providing to assist you. Really, this map and these layers that we're providing, whether it be the conservation areas or the flood zones, this is not intended to be a final product by any means. These layers, this information is just a tool to help you orient yourself in the region and to help understand where some of the environmentally sensitive areas are, where the development constraints are. And we are not going to try to vet this map to see if these various layers are in the right place, and if we missed an area. That's definitely not the goal here or our intention. This additional information that you can turn on or not use at all is just to help guide you, and we don't want to fall into the wormhole of verifying this information, right? We need to remain mindful of the goal of this task, which is to think about the region as a whole and the important issues that face the region. And really, take your ideas about those important issues and try to associate them geographically with the region. And so this is really about, it's about areas, innovation areas. It's about areas where housing should be, additional housing options should be explored, areas that should be better protected. So, the comment and the point about a particular area for preservation is very relevant, but we don't, at the same time, we don't want to go into this conservation map and zoom in and say this little area here along the river, this map is not correct because it doesn't grab this area, right?
Yeah.
Right.
The correct way to express that would be, through this area there are important habitats, and conservation is a priority along the river, right? That's the more appropriate way to express that.
Oh, okay. And my second question is in the comment section, if we want to include our name and who's making the comment, that's appropriate for us to be able to do that?
Oh, sure. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, feel free to.
Okay, and I just want to make sure, because certainly the town planners, I know Merrick's on the call, if he writes something in there, he's the guy at the top who knows everything that's going on in Middletown, and hopefully, that kind of brings even a bigger highlight to paying attention to that comment or something.
Now,
Sure.
I should note that when you start the web page on the intro page, and let me refresh my screen so that we can go back to that. As you enter in your email, all of your comments will be associated with that email. So we'll in some way know who you are, but please do feel free, if you would like to attach your name within one of the comments you provide, feel free to do so.
Okay, so we don't have to, you'll know who did it anyways. I think I wasn't clear on that.
If you include your email address, we'll know the email address of the person who commented. But if you want to comment anonymously, you do not have to put in your email address.
Right.
But if you want to put your name in the comment as well, you're free to do so. And I just want to just go back to what she mentioned about, let's say, the floating meadows. We don't if you want to, we want you to focus on things that are important to you. And let's say the floating meadows have a big issue that you're very concerned about and you think are not being addressed properly. That's something we want you to highlight. If there's a state forest, which is also equally environmentally important, but is preserved as a state forest, well, maybe you don't need to comment on that because it's already preserved.
Okay.
Same thing, if a place is already developed, it's developed. But if there's an opportunity to, let's say, redevelop it, we want to know. So.
Right.
I think the next we had Maurice, and we had a couple questions in the chat box. So I'll go Maurice, and then we'll go to the chat box.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Francisco, I didn't notice if there was an overlay that included the Valley Railroad and the Valley Railroad State Park. Is there one for that, or
No,
would that be in there?
no. What category do you think that would be in?
It's not really.
Valley Railroad. Are we talking about rail lines? Is that an active railroad?
It is active, but
Yeah.
it's not really transit. It's a tourist train basically. And now rail bikes recreational.
Okay, so what I would suggest is, if you see that as being part of the vision for future land use, to trace that corridor and provide a comment for how you see that being used. Maybe your thought is that should be completely converted to a greenway. And so,
No, I think,
No.
but what I was saying was it's existing right now. It's
Yeah.
a Valley Railroad State Park, and within it are railroad tracks that are used actively for
okay,
both tourist train and for rail bikes.
Yeah.
It seems like there should be an overlay for that. It's not a new thing. It's
right. We we are somewhat limited in our resources here and the amount of information and layers that we can pile into this application that we built. And so we can't show everything. We tried to show some of the really big picture pieces of information that will be helpful to you. So this
If you
is
zoom
not
in, I think it might be there.
exhaustive inventory of everything that's in the region. And our existing conditions report delves far more into features such as that. So
Maurice's question, I think if you zoom into the Google underlying base map, I think it's there.
Oh, okay.
where is it?
Oh, so Middletown South on the west bank of the river is I think so.
And Maurice could highlight it with the multi,
Yeah.
you know.
So you
point
can
line.
see the rail line there. It's not very dark, but you can see the rail line along.
Athabasca Trail there.
No, that's the trail, but the gray line parallel to the road, that is the rail line going
Okay.
by NRG, and then further south, it should be listed as a state park.
Well, I guess
There
part
it
of
is.
that,
There it is. The green line is there.
Here.
Yeah, that green line is the state park, which is the
okay.
road. You're right. It's not highlighted.
Yeah.
In a way, but this shows everything that's going to be in the Google underlying base map will show up. So we even have building footprints. We really don't want to be making comments about people's specific parcels and their buildings. But that information is there on Google. But that green corridor there, that is the Valley Railroad State Park, which is also the tourist railroad. And then also on the aerial, on the satellite button on Google, you can see the satellite image as well, and you can see the railroad there as well.
And I'm not part of the Valley Railroad, but I would imagine they would like to have the tracks delineated, sort of a black cross-check symbol so that you can see. It's a big part of the community.
If I may just reiterate what Francisco said, we do have all of this information in the existing conditions report. We only selected a couple of inputs just to kind of assist people in orienting themselves for the purpose of the exercise. But we're really just looking for people to identify those 5 or 6 topics that we mentioned at the beginning: the housing opportunities, innovation, etc. So just because you don't see it as a layer on this map doesn't mean that we haven't looked at it, that it's not included in existing conditions, and that we're not considering it, and that it won't be part of the final map and the final plan.
This map is just a tool for you and to help us consolidate your thoughts and take your thoughts and orient them geographically. This map is not a final product of anything, right? We will be taking all of your ideas and building a composite of those ideas and building a new map that captures those ideas that is available in a base map that allows you, similar to this, to zoom in to features.
And
All right. I think, Sam, we had some questions from the chat.
yeah, so there was a question that Torrance asked about, will the result be one map to include everyone's comments and pins? And the answer is that we will create, I think this was just said, but if people don't identify themselves in their comments, they will not be identified. We just want to allow people to be, we don't want people to hold back on giving us comments because they're afraid, that there's something they can't say. But
I
hopefully,
think my question, and perhaps it was a stupid question, but everybody that makes comments doesn't have their own map, and we end up looking at, however many people are in this meeting, 27 different maps with all the different comments. It'll be one map for, us at RiverCOG to see all the comments, all the pins. It'll be one map that will be sorting through all the different
Right.
lines. And okay, I was just curious. It'll be a busy map.
so Francisco, the next question was asking for the link to this map. We have not shared it yet, but we will be sharing it. So I think it's ready to go now tonight after this meeting, correct?
Correct, correct.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
should release it right after the meeting. We should send the
Yeah,
link
and
out.
so
to,
so what we can do is we can put it in the chat box. We're also going to put a link highlighted on RiverCOG regionalplan.org. But it's a simple address. You actually can see it on the screen right now, but it's in very small print. So I'll ask Francisco to copy and paste it into the chat box for everyone. And I think it's later on in the presentation. Yes. So, but
I think this is a great tool,
Yeah.
Francisco. I think this will be really interesting and actually fun for everybody to work with.
So Humphrey Tyler just asked the question about sharing this link with others. Yes, this is a public link. Please feel free to share it. If there's people on your commissions that you think would be interested in this exercise and giving some of their time and ideas to us, please, we encourage them to be involved and to submit ideas. Like, we are not asking people for an encyclopedia, everything, but we're asking them to please highlight what they think is important. Like, here's a part of the region or a couple towns that would be good for new housing development. This is where this is a great place for industry. This is an area of conservation. This is an area of we had a question here about 5G equipment, retrofitted decorative lighting down Main Street, electric feed already there. We just need to improve. Comments like that. Please give them to us, and we'll sort through them and find where they may be relevant to put in the plan. But yes, don't make it personal. Do not talk about individuals' properties necessarily, because that's not the scale of this plan. So we're not don't be telling someone that they should paint their house green.
This property is blighted and needs to be cleaned.
All right. So I see Nick has his hand raised.
Sam,
Yeah,
thank
you.
Add to what you said.
Oh, go ahead, Megan, and then Nick. Yeah, go ahead, Megan.
You said share with people on your commissions. I just wanted to add, you can share with your neighbors too. It doesn't have to be just people on commissions, planners, people in the professional field. Share with your wives, share with your kids, your husbands, your neighbors, your friends, coworkers, everybody.
The vaccine.
And if you need reach out to us, and we'll help you with getting this to work. So, all right. So, Nick, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I'm just get some clarity if I could, please. So when we look at our town, we work with our planner to identify different areas like innovation centers and things like that. I get that part. That's the easy part. And sharing it with our people in town. They can take a look at our existing conditions or zoning maps and understand what's actually available to do things with and what's not. But so I'm having a hard time putting my arms around and understanding. And I'm going to put town X in our region and think this would be a great place to add, continue a trail or to add housing or to, how would I do that without really understanding the town and the town area I'm trying to identify?
You want to take that, Megan?
Sure. I think just by living in the region, you'll have opinions about things that you see as beneficial or not. And that's why I said at the beginning, planning background is great, but it's not a prerequisite for doing this exercise. Just by being around and living in the region, going to and fro, you may have thoughts on this would be a great place for housing because you can access all of these restaurants in walking distance or something to that effect. And you could make that comment without knowing the ins and outs of the zoning or the regulations or everything that's going on in that town. We, as staff and the RPC going through the map later, once we've received all of these comments, can take a look at that suggestion and see, does this make sense with all of those other inputs? So, just because a comment is made here doesn't mean it's necessarily going in the plan, but we still want to hear what everybody is thinking, what residents of the region think, even if it's not their specific.
And as a
Comment
follow-up,
away.
do you want our most recent maps? We went through an exercise and updated them. Our town planner did. Do you want an outline of our more recent map?
Oh, please. The town POCD maps, we have all
Oh,
the
those are
POCDs,
old.
but if it's very recent, we may not have it.
Yeah, I went through an exercise. Actually, our town planner took some time with our P and Z commission chair, and we went through these things. I may have one that's a little bit more recent, so if that's helpful, I'll send it. Okay,
Absolutely.
all right. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
I see Alan has his hand up.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, you just muted yourself. Unmute yourself.
okay. Question is this being sent to the secretaries of all the planning commissions or to the staff? Because I think it would be interesting to get everybody to take a look at this and then have a discussion, an informal discussion, and see if we share ideas.
That sounds like a great idea. We can get this out to all the planning secretaries and the chair people. And then, you know, if Clinton wanted to have an informal meeting to talk about this tool, you could, and you could do it as a group activity or as individuals.
Well, I'd like to see people engaged in it. I think
Yeah.
that's the real thing. I think it's a
Yeah.
wonderful device, but it should be widely, I know you're getting a lot of input out of it, but it should be widely distributed.
And if somehow RiverCOG staff can facilitate that with our Zoom account to maybe have a meeting where people are invited and then someone is sort of a scribe, you know, we can work with you, Alan, if you want that help.
Great.
But I think, you know, because we're doing everything virtually anyway, you could do it very productively with one person in the comments.
Mhm. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so other comments or questions? I see that Francisco has posted the link. I'm actually trying to multitask and post it to the website at the same time. But yeah, it should be the recording of this meeting plus that link should be up on the project website, if not by the end of this meeting, shortly after.
So one thing that I just wanted to ask, we mentioned earlier the time frame is a 2-week thing, but I know that our schedule has shifted a little bit and so forth, Megan. Is it reasonable that we give folks until the end of the month, or do we need this back by a certain date? What were your thoughts?
We thought 2 weeks would be a reasonable amount of time, but if we haven't gotten, you know, significant number of comments by then we could consider extending it. I think that would also be reasonable.
Can we say, since it's the close of business on a Friday, the 29th of January?
Yeah.
All right. Let's do that then. That gives us a little over 2 weeks and gives people enough time to meet with their commissions and so forth and go through. They may want to talk about it in a group setting.
Yeah, and what Alan had proposed of, like, you know, you maybe convene a Zoom meeting with a group and you have a discussion and then you work on it together. I think that's that could be a really productive way of creating these maps. Or people can do it on their own if they want. But I see Mary has her hand raised. Mary, go ahead.
Yes, my question about the due date is from the point of view of, so in Lyme, you have an entire town that is devoted to the subject of land use, and certainly more than just Humphrey and I need to weigh in on this. And it seems like some sort of townwide Zoom meeting needs to be organized. I don't really know how to do this or what the time frame is for it, but you're going to have a huge amount of input, and if you don't solicit the input, you'll have a huge amount of outrage. So we may need more than 2 weeks to get this together and notify people that it's taking place, and then have the tool explained to them so that they can participate directly. It's, I don't know if we can get it done within 2 weeks.
So
Because we don't exactly know who we're talking to yet unless we advertise it.
This is Humphrey, and I'd like to echo what Mary just said. She's right on the mark.
So let me respond to that, is that we're not asking the town of Lyme and its residents to recreate a future land use map that should already exist as a product of your planning commissions and the plan of conservation and development for the town. We really don't, we're not looking to replace the town's POCD map. We're looking at things of generally of a larger scale that are not addressed in any specific POCD or is of importance to multiple towns that are really important to your neighbors and to the region as a whole. So there's obviously many elements and many things in Lyme that are important to the region as a whole, but we're not looking to sort of to recreate and reinvent a POCD map that will, be an exercise on a specific town level, because you already have that as part of your POCD.
Right, that was not the purpose of my question. The purpose is to gather input on the values that Lyme has and the directions that it wants to see development go. So these are things that don't specifically need a map, but they do need, if the map is the tool that you're using in order to pin these concerns in a general way to a spot, even though they apply to the whole town, then we have to go with that tool. But people are going to have very strong opinions that they want to assert about the directions of land use, what can and cannot happen to land, especially as regards land conservation and land preservation, which is a very strong townwide value, and a lot of effort and history and money has gone into it. And we'd be remiss if we didn't reaffirm it in the strategic plan. So a lot of people are going to want to weigh in on this, and I'm asking really for advice on how I can get such input to you, because the gathering process is what I need help with.
So I saw, so we have a multi-user Zoom account that we pay for at RiverCOG, so we can make that accessible to you and assist you as RPC members in facilitating that that conversation. I don't know if I can promise that staff will be able to attend meetings in every town, but we can at least help you with the technology of being able to facilitate a multi-participant meeting and help support you with of training of how we would pull this off. What?
Can I add to that as well? Just that the RPC members, this isn't the final land use map either. This is just meant to be individual residents of the town commenting on their big picture ideas. We're not really looking for towns to say this is our official position necessarily. So, I mean, my personal suggestion would just be spread the link far and wide and let people, share this video with the tutorial and have people comment. But RPC members will also have more time once all the information comes in to look at what we have, to bring that information back to their towns and to have those kinds of meetings where they're fleshing out further ideas before we complete a final land use map for inclusion in the plan. So I think maybe we're just a little off on which step we're at in terms of developing the future land use map.
And I think as RPC representatives of your town, we're happy to support you in your efforts doing your due diligence with your town residents, and that's great. But ultimately, this is not your one and only opportunity as RPC representatives of the town of Lyme to weigh in on this. This is just the beginning. But ultimately, you're correct. The RPC members are going to be guiding and crafting this, how this map looks when we're done. And if you feel that you want to go through a process, a comprehensive process in Lyme to make sure that you're well informed as you're making those, giving that guidance on the behalf of the town, we're happy to support that.
Thank you for those comments, Sam and Megan. I think those were well put and really clarify what we're doing. And also thank you for the fact that we have until the 29th, which is almost 3 weeks, to get this back to you.
And I also just want to point out, I think we really do need to make it clear to people, was we don't want people saying, this specific property needs to be preserved. If it's 1,000 acres, I think that's of a regional significance. Like but if you're talking about specific properties or specific landowners, I really don't want to go down that road necessarily, because that's not the scale and the lane of this plan. I see Kellen has his hand up.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks to staff for putting this tool together. I think it's a really good one. For many users, this kind of tool, placing pins and commenting on them would probably be pretty intuitive. But I think Mary's observation was a good one in terms of like a general, the tutorial aspect of learning how to navigate it for other users. Is it too much to ask for staff to put together like a one-pager to kind of summarize Francisco's comments at the beginning of the meeting into like a one-page PDF to accompany the tool for users who may not be able to put in the time to review the video?
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea.
Yeah.
And if that's something we can get done, Megan and Sam?
I think it could be summarized very easily.
Yeah.
And if it avoids phone calls or emails to us, that saves us.
Exactly. Yeah. Minimize. You mentioned setting up Zooms and things like that, or kicking it to RPC folks to try and help users along. I think, a bulleted one page or something really concise would be able to do a lot of that work for everyone.
Yeah.
We do have a brief tutorial built into, and can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Built into the website that provides a very simple overview on how to interface with it. It doesn't provide, the much more broad direction that we gave you this evening regarding what we're looking for, but it does show you technically how to use the site.
Also, one other item is, and I need to follow up with Frank, is if we can get the gas pipelines, source of that map, even if it's just a paper map, we can add that to utilities.
Yep, you and I can talk that over. I've got that information.
Great. Other questions? We're a few minutes over past 7, so we want to be mindful of people's times, but if you have questions, please ask them. And
I have a quick comment.
Sure. Go ahead, Deborah.
This is Debbie Felice, and I don't see Ray's hand, so I couldn't figure it out.
That's fine.
When Francisco was just showing us the tutorial that comes with the mapping, the item there says to me, this intersection is hard to cross.
Oh.
You may want to do the others. You may want to do the more general sheet that the other gentleman asked for, just so you can explain that this is a regional thing. You really don't want comments like this intersection is hard to cross.
Yeah, that's an artifact from a previous use of this map. So yeah, we can fix that. And and we can have a link to a PDF. That's fine. I think that's good, because although there may be specific transportation comments that people will make, we probably don't need to have it that specific. Any other comments or questions before we move to wrap this up? And while you're talking, I started editing the website, so that will be up almost immediately. And in the morning, we'll have Eliza send out the link to all of our participants as well.
Great.
All right. So I think so. Megan, if you want to, let's we'll move back to the presentation.
Okay, so this should look very familiar to everybody by now. Here is our anticipated timeline for completion of this project. We kicked it off in winter of 2019, and we do anticipate completing it this spring. So we are rounding the end here. We are currently in phase 4 at the regional thematic meetings, which is in the 4th column, first line, and this is our final regional thematic meeting. So the next step and the next opportunity for public involvement after you've completed this exercise will be the posting of the draft RPOCD for public comment period. So once we have the draft plan ready for review, we'll be posting it to our website, rivercogregionalplan.org, for 65 days to allow members of the public to provide comment. So please check the website for the posting. And also, if you've provided us with your email address, we'll let you know when it's up on the website and ready for you to comment. So going forward, there are still several ways to get involved, including visiting the website, most important, signing up for email notifications, and sharing this presentation and this activity with others in your community. And again, don't forget to keep an eye out for the draft plan to be posted and let others know that it will be posted for comment. And I'll kick it over to Sam to wrap it up.
And just as a reminder, between now and the posting of the draft plan, we will be having a number of regional planning committee meetings. Those meetings, of course, are open to the public, and information is posted at rivercog.org for those meetings. So, although we won't be having public involvement in those discussions of the RPC, everyone's welcome to attend those meetings over the next few months. This is a listing of your the Regional Planning Committee membership. You'll see that there's a few vacancies. If you, let's say, live in Middlefield and would like to be a part of this and represent your town, please reach out to us and we can get you in touch with your Planning and Zoning Commission or your first selectman and get you appointed. So, but for everyone else, these are your points of contact for this project. So. Please feel free to reach out to them. We have set up email addresses for each of them. And you can find these email addresses on the project website. So so you can you don't have to scribble them down quickly, but most of them are just going to be the name of your town plus rpc@gmail.com. And this is our project website again, rivercogregionalplan.org. We hope that you visit it, and if you have any questions, you can look at all the documents. Tonight's recording will be posted there shortly, as well as the link to the mapping tool. And I think that wraps it up. Any last questions or comments before we adjourn for the night?
I want to thank everyone who participated tonight, and I want to thank staff for all of their hard efforts on this, and also Francesco for putting together a really well-functioning map. Makes it simple to use.
Yeah.
So thank you very much to everyone who participated tonight.
And thank you for all your comments. We'll get that PDF written and up there quickly, and please share this widely. This is something which we really. We want people to be able to tell us the big things that they think about in the big regional, those big ideas that we talked about when we visited each of the towns this past summer and doing our earlier workshops. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where, we're talking about affordable housing. Well, give us some ideas of where you think it might work. This is where you can give that information and don't be afraid. to submit your comments, because you don't have to have your name associated with it if you don't want to. So anyway, well, thank you, everyone, and Happy New Year again. And we will be
Thank you.
We'll be seeing the RPC members towards the end of the month, and we hope the next time that we'll be talking about the public, it will be some sort of release of our draft plans. So thank everyone. Thank you very much for your involvement and giving us some time this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great job.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Goodbye.
Bye.